The wrestling podcast that sets all other podcasts apart. Covering news from the world of WWE, AEW, TNA, and more. Your favorite weekly episodic podcast, Ramblers Unleashed, starts now.
So now you know, if you saw that live, now you know what we do backstage before we get on the program. We just cut up. We do stupid shit all the freaking time. I told everybody to mute, and that's why you saw us doing that. Okay? Apologize. Anyway, welcome to yet another episode of Ramblers Unleashed. Almost call it the old show. It's not the old show anymore. It's Ramblers Unleashed. My God, we started off on a wrong foot. It's Dizzy hanging with you along with the Ringside Ramblers. Got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. But first, let's do some introductions. First and foremost, our neighborhood heel. A man who definitely wouldn't mind if Miss Tiffy Time would yep, and he would be of those who don't want to be cool. He is the only guy that I know that pops bigger for Joel Gertner than any of us. You can address him as Mr. Magus, but we call him the mighty Maximus Magus. Max, how are you, sir?
Guys, it's Saturday. It is 12:15 in the only time zone that matters. And I'm doing pretty good. And you know what? For once, I'm actually happy to be here, even with your sorry ass.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're here, too. I can't say that I am, but I'm happy that you're here. And you know what? I'm actually happy that you're on time today, too, which is good. Very good.
I had to be.
You can't, you can't always be fashionably late.
We have to talk about what happened Tuesday night. I got to be on time for that.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. We will definitely talk about that. Next up, the man who needs no introduction, the man that is higher than the ratings at AEW and whose catchphrase is and will always be, Baron, please.
999.
Yes, sir. And before becoming more sophisticated with his intake of Mary Jane, would roll a big fatty and spit on that thing. He is the steel trap of pro wrestling knowledge. He is the high one. He is the Baron Golfer's Clap. How are you, buddy?
I don't even know what the fuck to say anymore. You got me, Diz. Yeah, dude, I'm ready to hawk to it about some fucking wrestling today, man. I'm looking forward to it. We had, I think, in my personal opinion, like one of the best weeks of wrestling outside of like a major pay-per-view like Mania or whatever. So yeah, hell yeah, dude. And it's hot, so I'm glad to be inside.
Oh, yeah, it's way too freaking hot to do anything outside. Absolutely. Well, let's cool off with the last introduction here. The producer of our show, the man, the myth, the absolute freaking legend, for without his technical wizardry and his vast wrestling knowledge and his missus, because she graciously gifts us his time to do this show. And once in a while, J-Bone, please don't kill me. Hopefully she does. The host of Smash This Podcast and Total Nonstop Impact with the latest TNA reviews over any other podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, let's and graciously welcome the great and infamous J-Bone. How are you, buddy?
You know, it's getting damp in here. I don't know all this hot chewy stuff. It's like raining indoors. I don't understand what could look. I understand I'm like the elder statesman of the group here, but could somebody please explain to me what in the blue hell or green hell for that matter is all this the girls of the Haktui?
Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, J-Bone. So, you know, Dizzy, I'm gonna leave this with you. I don't know how to say this. Are we in the PG era? Where are we at right now?
Oh no, we're definitely in the MA era. We're definitely in the M era for mature. This is for mature audiences only. J-Bone, I feel like you and I are about to have the conversation of the birds and the bees. Okay.
Oh dear Lord.
So,
I'm a little rusty
this is
on
what
the bird.
your childhood, man.
this is what happens when most of your wrestling focus goes to TNA. You're sheltered from all this other pop culture stuff.
Well, speaking of TNA, the whole Hawk 2 thing, she is going viral with this, man. It was a girl who was interviewed on some TikTok channel, and they were asked. What was it? Was it? He asked her what her favorite, or what to make a man happy, and she, of course, said, "Ooh, and spit on that thing." She said, "You got to Hawk 2 and spit on that thing." So that is where this whole thing came from, and that is, and there's a ton of speculation on who is this girl. Reports are coming out that she is actually from Paducah, Kentucky, and that explains everything. And that her dad, I think I've heard her dad is a priest or some sort of minister or something.
Oh,
so
she going to hell.
Not necessarily, but she's probably not going to be very much looked at the next family dinner at the same way anyway, right?
No, they will literally be hot stewing at the dinner.
They will Hawk to her ass out the door, probably.
Dude, it's just wild to me. Like, we're all a little bit older, so like how we grew up is much different than what's happening now. It's just crazy how social media, just videos like that, is just fucking just taken over.
Oh yeah, dude.
And
yeah,
we'll talk about it more on the show, but I think social media is more important than actual any type of ratings whatsoever on TV, in my opinion. I mean, like, look at Joe Hendry and the likes he had on the WWE channel. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's yeah. I mean, things have definitely changed with the introduction of social media, as far as getting noticed and being out there. That's where all of this stuff from, Women of Wrestling, the whole Tonga Twins fiasco came from. They went to social media and just let it all loose. It's easier for a wrestler to be noticed by a bigger promotion if they're with a smaller promotion by the things that they're doing. People capturing the video on their phone and then sharing it out to social media. Social media can either make you or break you. It just depends on how you use it, But it definitely has helped a lot of people who are trying to break into wrestling a lot easier. It's made it a lot easier than to have maybe a WWE promoter come out to an indie show and talent scout. All they have to do is pull up their phone and boom, I like that guy. I'm going to send him a message. I'm going to find out who he is and Google him and get the ball rolling from there. So
you know what, guys? I think this is the perfect segue, talking about social media and how it affects the fan base and such. And I think we need to roll right into how viral Max Magis's favorite current wrestler debuted on NXT this week. And we're talking about the one that we believe in, 252 pounds of, what is it? Positivity?
I believe so.
Like
yeah.
that. Joe Hendry.
Yeah. That is a very good segue. I mean, lots of stuff happened in the world of wrestling. Joe Hendry has gone absolutely viral with it starting at Clash at the Castle. He had a big ass billboard outside of the venue. And it was really, it's been really impressive to watch Joe Hendry become just so viral. And of course, he's got his number one song. out on all digital media platforms, and he made his debut on NXT as WWE continues their partnership with TNA. And according to Program Insider, the June 18th episode of NXT secured just over 700,000 viewers with a 0.26 in the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. That's great. The number is an increase from last week's show, which got about 718,000 viewers and a 0.22 in the demographic. This week's episode of NXT actually featured Joe Hendry as a shocking appearance, and several other storylines also progressed as we towards the NXT Heatwave PLE next month. Max, I know that you were really excited to see Joe Hendry on NXT. Did you pop, man?
Oh yeah, totally, 100%. Now,
were you expecting Joe Hendry to come on to NXT, or were you just kind of?
I'm gonna be honest. Ever since this whole crossover thing started, so far I feel like it's only been that way coming to us. But I've been expecting it to happen at some point, because how do you not bring up the viral sensation from over there to here? I mean, that guy's name is very well known right now. And I've said this before. I've been a fan of this guy for years. I have not seen a single match of his, and I'm still a huge fan of his. Mm-hmm. But I do want to point something out that was said about this. Meltzer, who we all love to hate, said WWE's decision to have Joe Hendry eliminated immediately in the NXT Championship #1 Contenders Battle Royal made no sense. If I'm a good partner, the first thing I'm going to do is put the guys over in the other company. And what's the first thing they did? They had Jordan Grace, their TNA champion, lose to Roxanne Perez. Before I continue this, I'd like to point out that despite the fact that she lost to Roxanne Perez, they made her look damn good in that match. Then they come in here with Joe Hendry coming off the week where his song got like big airplane, was number 5 in the UK a couple weeks ago. Bring him in. Granted, they don't know the crowd's going to go nuts, but they gave very few people ring introductions. All right, real quick. His song actually hit #1 on Spotify. You missed out on how strong that debuted. I don't understand why they threw him out right away, other than they did. It makes no sense. All right, Uncle Dave, let's talk about this. Everybody has heard the name Joe Hendry. The difference is everyone gets excited when they hear the name Joe Hendry. Everybody's heard the name Meltzer, and we all go, oh, that guy, when we hear your name. By bringing him out and teasing him, and then if you saw the backstage thing that happened right after he was eliminated, you know we're not done with Joe Hendry yet. Because he went backstage, he got in Sean's face, then he turned to the camera and said, anytime, any show, I can show up anywhere. The dude is coming back. They gave us a taste, is all they did. We're going to see more of Joe Hendry very soon on the WWE side of things.
Oh, absolutely. It's called storytelling. And I'm gonna throw a number at you guys. And then hi Oreo.
Hi Oreo.
See, hi, Oreo believes in Joe Hendry too. She's like, everybody does. I believe.
Except Uncle Dave.
So here's a number for you guys. And then I'll let you guess what the hell it is. 17 million.
I would assume his followers.
How many times his song has been played?
It's how many likes he got on WWE's whatchamacallit, right? Something similar to that. A tweet put out by WWE, right?
On X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Yes, Oreo, you are correct. Oreo was right. She come here. On the WWE, hello, my God. Somebody's happy. Is say his name and he appears. Joe Hendry is here for the Battle Royal. #WWE NXT. It's WWE's post on X of Joe Hendry coming in and debuting on NXT is up to 17 million views.
That's crazy.
What, like, I get the whole thing that people are upset that he was tossed out first. If you watch, though, it looked like it was everybody throwing him out. It was if you rewatch it, it was primarily Kazarian, who is also from TNA, is the one that threw him out.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, starting a storyline. And by the way, we have to give props to Kazarian. He was in the final 4 of that battle royal. Okay, so props to Kazarian. He is a TNA legend, a legend in wrestling, in my professional podcasting opinion. He is the king of TNA. We got to give him some love.
Yeah.
But it's storytelling. Okay, people forget about storytelling, and it's like, yeah, sometimes stuff doesn't happen the way you want it to. It's all tit for tat. Jordan lost on NXT. Tatum Paxley, I think is her name. She went over to TNA and lost to Jordan in the open challenge. It's all about just featuring other people's talents.
Oh yeah.
That, and you got people got to understand this is a work in progress, and I love the conversation of people are like, yeah, this person should go wrestle this person should show up over here on this show. I love it. That's what everyone's talking about. So to sit there and say, oh, well, they ruined this and ruined that, take a look at the numbers on Twitter. It blows anything as far as views on any streaming service out of the damn water. So they got to be proud of that.
Oh yeah, I don't know why anybody would ever like. I'm not even sure why people are complaining about anything regarding this or any debuts that recently happened this week. For the simple fact, man, like, you know, there's no knock on TNA whatsoever, but clearly Joe Hendry was not getting 17 million likes on their social media page. So for them to come to a WWE product that gives them more insight into, you know, who the person is and whatnot. So I mean, like, it's a platform for those professional wrestlers, and that's what they're giving them. They don't have to win every match. I think people get, just like you said, get too damn focused on the match instead of the whole, you know,
big
what
picture.
Goes into the big picture of the match. You know, I think people are too worried about this 5-star shit that is actually just blown out of proportion by obviously Uncle Dave over there and what they're doing at another promotion. I mean, we want to be, you know, we want to be excited. Did anybody have a clue Joe Hendry was showing up on NXT for them to get 700,000 viewership? Nobody. And that's the beauty of wrestling. And when people don't spoil it, and that's, you know, people enjoy that kind of shit. So people are very interested to go to social media that go look at that, you know? And it's madly annoying that we always have to, like, the match has to be this standard of a 5-star. I mean, there's so many factors that come into a perfect match. And I wish, obviously, just like J-Bone said, we've seen how Joe Hendry left and had the interaction with Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels saying, I believe we're clearly going to see him back on NXT, if not somewhere else, because he's definitely got the aura that a wrestler should have.
When Goldberg made a return a few years ago, he made a return here in Denver. I actually had tickets to that Raw, and it was all over the dirt sheets. Goldberg will be making his return in Denver. How am I supposed to go enjoy the show if it's been spoiled for me? I want to be surprised. I want you guys to do something that catches me off guard. And knowing that Goldberg is making this big secret return, and I know that's not WWE's fault. We live in the era of the internet wrestling community, the dirt sheets, you know, all of that. But stop spoiling stuff, guys. Let me be surprised.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the dirt sheets. People read into the dirt sheets and then they expect these 5-star matches, and they forget that wrestling is all about storytelling. Wrestling is all about, you know, how can you tell the story of two people who legitimately hate each other and who are both trying to climb to the very top of the company. And that's what I always tell people is don't read the dirt sheets. I don't. I stopped reading them. I stopped reading them because I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I want to legitimately pop for when things happen on either promotion, WWE, AEW, TNA, whatever. I want to pop. And I just, I don't know. I wish people would just give things a chance instead of, becoming a part of the IWC and going to the internet right after the show airs or while the show airs, or maybe after that segment is over, and just bitching. Just shut up and enjoy wrestling. Enjoy it for what it is, man. Enjoy it for the story that they're telling us. Enjoy it because Joe Hendry, one of the most noticeable people, noticeable figures on social media and on TNA, just joined NXT. He appeared, he made his debut on NXT, and he's probably going to make his way up the roster because he is that damn popular and he's that damn good too, man. So just everybody just stop reading the freaking dirt sheets and stop listening to Dave Meltzer.
I mean, if you do read the dirt sheets, at least like look at reputable, like maybe journalist, or like take it for a grain of salt, because 9 times out of 10 they're truly not accurate. I mean, Jacob Fatu was supposed to show up to the last 15 SmackDowns they've had. It's journalism. That's how it works.
We're gonna talk about why Jacob Fatu didn't show up to those last 15 SmackDowns coming up. But
I want to give them another glimpse into what goes on behind the scenes with us. So the other day, I sent a voice message to Messenger. And I said, guys, we talk about Joe Hendry a lot on the show. He gets talked about a lot around my house. We talk about him in this chat all the time. And the saying goes, if you talk about him, he shall appear. And I'm starting to get disappointed because he hasn't appeared yet. So Dizzy messages me back and he says, maybe that's because you're believing wrong. Maybe you need to believe. I said, yeah, but every time I believe, Uncle Howdy shows up and kills all my neighbors. These are the kind of things we talk about backstage when you guys aren't around. And as you can see, it centers on the topics of the day. I mean, I sent a meme to him to the group that was Carlito saying, I huck to on the face of people who don't want to be cool. Whatever's current, we talk about it because we sit there and we enjoy the current storyline. Has Disney tried to say he wants certain things to happen faster? Once in a while, but we remind him, hey, this is the best storytelling we have seen out of WWE in years. Let's not rush it. Yeah. And he agrees that we're right, that we don't want to rush it. We want to enjoy the story for what it's worth.
Yeah, it is all. I have to remind myself that it's all about anticipation. When are we going to see this person? We don't know. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. And it was like this with the Uncle Howdy thing and the Wyatt 6 that finally made their debut on WWE Raw, even after, I feel like it was months and months of us getting these teases and these interruptions with the QR code and everything. And
were they doing that at Mania? Did they have a QR code at Mania? I don't remember. I can't remember.
I don't remember if they had one at Mania or not, but any other PLE they had after Mania.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it might have been the Raw after Mania that they started. But I just have to remind myself that things take time. You got to give it time to write itself, write the story itself. And let's talk about the Wyatt 6 and their debut on Monday Night Raw. They concluded the Raw episode following Clash at the Castle with a captivating finale. It was hailed as one of the most memorable endings in recent times, leaving fans stunned and mesmerized with their debut. After Raw went off the air, the group received a standing ovation as well, which was recorded on was recorded on somebody's phone and then later shared on social media. As seen during the June 17th episode of Monday Night Raw, the reveal of the Wyatt 6 group happened after the main event. The first member unveiled was Nikki Cross, followed by Eric Rowan. Third member, while not confirmed, appeared to be Dexter Loomis. And then the fourth was Joe Gacy. The fifth member, of course, as Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas. And after Raw went off the air, the Wyatt Six group walked towards the camera. They posed for a while, making their way to the back. They received a standing ovation from the crowd, and it was a very impactful performance. I knew that they were coming. I had a feeling that maybe after Clash at the Castle, we talked about it on the show, on the review of Clash. We kind of figured that it was time for them to make their debut on Monday Night Raw, and they even gave us the date as part of the QR code secret or codes or whatever they had been sharing. And what really stuck out was Bray's sister, Mika. She reacted to the Wyatt Six Raw debut. She took to her social media and she said, "Wish you were here," of course, referring to Bray. And it was kind of moving to sit there and watch Bray's brother Bo go out there and pick up the lantern, blow it out just like Bray did. It was really awesome to see Bray's vision of what he wanted to do with his character stay alive. What were your guys' initial response? We'll start with J-Bone, because you have been looking forward to this debut for a long time. What was your initial reaction to the debut?
Number one, having what's her name, Nikki Cross, crawl out to Bray's lantern, and she had this like creepy, ghouly mask. I don't know how to describe it. It was just, I thought it was makeup at first, and then I realized it was some kind of mask that perfectly, covered her face. She bowed her head and then pointed backwards, and it's like, oh, here we freaking go. Mm-hmm. And then it went like backstage, and it just like room by room, hallway by hallway, and it just like, oh, if you remember, there was one word that stuck out in all these QR code previews. It was massacre. Mm-hmm. It was like, you guys got to get ready for the massacre. Oh, by the way, did you know there's a massacre coming? And they were kidding, because one of the things that was another hot topic this week was rest in peace, Chad Gable. Now, it has been announced that he is going to be on Raw. In a qualifying match for Money in the Bank, I believe still. Yeah. So it's a miracle. I don't know what the doctors did for him, but man, I mean, he had an open head wound that looked vicious.
Yeah.
But the whole scene backstage was incredible. It was so well done.
Yeah. And it's really cool that they didn't just stick to the backstage attacks. They targeted Pat McAfee during his show. They also targeted the social media account of the Raw GM too. And if I'm not mistaken, did I see Braun Strowman laid out too backstage? Baron, did you see that?
That wasn't Braun.
That wasn't Braun. Okay.
No, I think there was only two people that were like active, roster members. Obviously Chad Gable, and I think there was somebody else. I can't remember. But everybody else was just like extras, or someone from the Performance Center, or something like that. Man, I think that was like production wise some of the best shit I've seen WWE probably put out ever, and absolutely amazing. And I'm glad they finally debuted it. But here's my thing, and I've always said this with Bray. Love Bray. That aura of Bray is, I mean, it's fucking amazing. But it's always short-lived. What are we going to do long term? You know, I'm more interested in that. That debut was gorgeous. I loved it. The production value, they looked amazing. But I always feel like this gets a little shaky when it comes to the longevity of it. So, but badass, loved it.
Yeah.
Gave me goosebumps watching it.
You know, we're definitely going to have to watch. I'm definitely intrigued on what WWE is going to do with the Wyatt Six, and I hope that they just don't fall by the wayside. I don't think they will, but Max, your initial thoughts on the Wyatt Six debut, and as a former booker of wrestling, how would you in the future book the Wyatt Six for matches or for run-ins or whatever the case may be? How would you book that, man?
Well, first off, when the lights went down, I got chills. I mean,
I did too. Yeah.
It was just one of those things that you don't even have to be there to feel the immensity of what's happening.
And before you, and that just reminded me of something. Before you continue, I saw something on social media that Bray's last appearance for WWE was in Texas, and it just made a whole lot of sense because the Wyatt Six debuted in Texas. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Max.
I mean, that does make total sense. I mean, why, and which is why it took part of the reason probably why they took so long building to this is they wanted to be back where we last saw it. My only real disappointment with Monday night is they were missing one, and if I'm being honest, it's my favorite out of the six. So I hope she shows up soon. As far as booking them goes, I got to be honest. I'm not sure I want to start booking them in matches right away. I want to see the mind games for a while. I want to see this build. I want everyone in that locker room on notice, on their toes, that these guys make the bloodline look tame. And if you saw the ending to SmackDown the other night, and you saw the looks on Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa's faces, I want that to be tame compared to what the looks on the locker room on Raw are when the music starts playing. So I'm going to build this up. We're going to play the mind games, and we're going to stretch this out for a little while. And then Joe Hendry's going to debut, and they're probably going to attack him, and I'm going to be pissed. But, that's not how I'd book it. That's probably just what's going to happen.
Yeah, right. It is definitely going to be interesting to see how we go forward. And I think, Max, how you would book it is perfect. Let them do mind games. Let them do the run-ins. This is only going to build up an anticipation for when we finally get to see them in the ring and do their stuff. And I would assume, Max, you meant Alexa Bliss, correct? Joining the Wyatt Six. That would only make sense because we all know what Alexa Bliss meant to Bray Wyatt and vice versa. Man, I'm telling you, this has been an incredible week as far as debuts with Joe Hendry and the Wyatt Six. Also, a few weeks ago, we saw the debut of, I guess not even the debut, but it was a surprise entrance in TNA as far as Jeff Hardy goes. And Matt Hardy has confirmed that he and his brother, who made the appearance at TNA Against All Odds, has revealed that Jeff's contract with AEW expired on the same day, allowing him to make his comeback to TNA. And on the latest podcast of the Extreme Life with Matt Hardy, Matt discussed Jeff's arrival at TNA. He explained that Jeff was still under contract with AEW, and Matt had been negotiating for the both of them. Matt had hoped to align his deal with Jeff, potentially exploring options to return to AEW as a team. However, the offers they received were not satisfactory. Consequently, Hardy decided to compete in TNA's Against All Odds, suggesting a storyline with Moose that would culminate in a major match where he would put Moose over, and Jeff confirmed that Matt confirmed that he and Jeff are free agents without contracts. So guys, I'm going to leave it up to you and people in the chat. I'm going to leave it up to you. We'll start with our resident TNA podcaster, J-Bone. Where do you think they'll go? Do you think they'll go back to AEW? Do you think they'll stay in TNA? Do you think that they'll try to negotiate a contract with the WWE and work under Legends contracts? And I don't know if they are as of right now. But J-Bone, where do you think Matt and Jeff Hardy will go?
I don't think they're going back to AEW. I think that ship has sailed. It was nice for a while, but stuff just, it was just a combination of things that didn't help the situation. Jeff's arrest, he was gone for a while. Then he got a concussion or whatever happened to him in that match versus Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara still has not been seen, which is controversial in itself because people have different points of views on that. We won't get into that here, though. So I definitely not AEW. I do think it's just a matter of time before we see these two back in WWE to have a final run, wrap up their career. And it's a different time in WWE. So I think we would see something proper as far as what Matt would want to do, his actual, deletion gimmick with, Brother Nero or something. Maybe not the whole family. That's kind of been tied to TNA for years behind the scenes. So I think it's just a matter of time. But for now, as much as I love them in TNA, in the back of my mind, I think it's just a matter of time before they go back. But I'm not going to be a negative Nancy and be like, well, they're going to go back tomorrow. No, let's just enjoy them for what it is. I think they're going to be there for a few months. Slammiversary is coming in. And by the way, we just got a quick mention that Slammiversary up in Canada has well over 2,000 tickets sold. So that's the biggest gate or attendance that TNA has had in about 10 years. So let's jump on that hype train for a second. That's pretty freaking awesome. They deserve that. They've been working hard to get this brand back up to where it is now. And I think I think the WWE stuff will help it. It's going to be kind of hard to tell exactly how it may be included in this show, but it's breadcrumbs. We can't. It's not going to all happen at once.
Yeah, and I think that with this, Baron, I think the Hardys need to stay in TNA to help build up the hype of the brand. I think they need to stay to put over younger talent and work with the younger talent, maybe teach them a couple things. Where do you see these guys going, Baron, as far as staying in TNA or maybe making a return to the WWE? What are your thoughts?
So in my personal opinion, like J-Bone just said, that they sold the most tickets they've sold in 10 years. I think it's a clear indication that WWE or NXT, however we want to put that in the group, has clearly helped that out a little bit. I think also in the same sense, whether Matt or Jeff stay on TNA or they go to WWE, I don't think it really truly matters, because I think both of those shows, as much as people are not going to want to hear it or admit it, I think they are, very cohesive of one. You're going to see them go back and forth between two brands. I'm more worried about, is Jeff Hardy medically okay? Physically, mentally, we all know that Jeff Hardy has been through a lot of demons in his life, so I'm hoping that he has that figured out, and I'm more worried about that. They're always going to perform in the ring, but clearly their end result has to be back to WWE, to get put in the Hall of Fame and everything like that. I just hope that, Jeff and Matt are enjoying what they're doing. And I think it's a good point that they, staying in TNA and helping out the younger talent, maybe do some booking or something along those lines will be huge for TNA. But I'm sure by next year we'll hear that, they've re-signed with WWE or something like that.
Yeah. Max, I know that you have been kind of following up on this too, as far as the Hardys and the legacy and the story behind the Hardys, behind Jeff and all of his problems in the past, and how Matt has had to take to a singles career without his brother being there. Do you think that it's a good idea for them to return to WWE? Do you think it makes sense, or do you think that they should stay back and hang in TNA and help develop the younger talent?
Look, Jeff clearly needs help.
Yeah.
Maybe he's found a way to clean up his life, and maybe he hasn't. We haven't heard a lot since that last arrest about what's going on in his personal life, but I would rather he gets the help he needs and does some backstage work somewhere. I think we need to see the end of his in-ring career for his own well-being, because the more time he spends in the ring, the more I feel like, I need more painkillers is probably going to pop into his head. And him being an addict the way he is, we want to avoid that. And as much as I love watching him work, I think it's time for the end. I think it's time to take the step away, make sure you're clean, make sure you're healthy, and then work with people backstage, whether it be TNA helping the young people, NXT helping the young people, help with the production up in WWE on the main roster, like Hurricane does and Abyss does, something like that. I think it's time for your in-ring to be over. I don't think that what we want to see is him making a mistake before he works a match and then getting in that ring and costing himself or his opponent in some way, shape, or form. And even if they do it as a tag team with Matt out there, that's not guaranteeing that he's going to be able to avoid that mistake in ring. So I hate to say this because he's been very entertaining over the years. I love the guy. Jeff needs to be done. As far as Matt's concerned, with that level of knowledge in his head, he could pretty much write his own contract for being part of the booking team somewhere or production somewhere or training. He could go down to NXT and be one of the trainers at Full Sail and write his own check for that. And that would be great. And even though Matt's probably okay to be in the ring, we're getting to a point where it's probably time for him to go ahead and say, you know what? I need to mentor a younger generation. Hulk Hogan, I don't have a lot of respect for the man, but he said something very important. The human body can only take so many bumps. And these two have hellaciously put themselves through bump after bump. And the TLC matches take more of those bumps out of you than just a standard bump. All right. I think it's time to hang it up for these two.
Yeah. And speaking of Hulk Hogan, I respect that too. Honestly, I do. Speaking of Hulk Hogan, if you haven't watched Who Killed WCW on Vice yet, I highly recommend that you do, because my God, that show is so, there's so much freaking finger pointing at that show, because you have Kevin Nash on his thoughts on Who Killed WCW. You have Eric Bischoff who has his thoughts. You have Russo, who's all about fucking Vince Russo. You have Kevin Sullivan, who is pointing fingers. You have everybody pointing fingers. And I think the only people who have level heads on that show have been so far Diamond Dallas Page, Booker T, and I think there's one more. I think Medusa's on that show too. She's got a pretty level head too, on the level of the shit show that we saw in WCW after Eric left, even during his time with WCW. I have been enjoying this show. Honestly, I try to catch it every week, but it's just so good. And finally I feel like we do need some closure on who killed World Championship Wrestling because it was a very hot promotion, especially to go up with the likes of the World Wrestling Federation. I just wish that they would, and I know we're not going to get to an answer. I know it's still going to always be speculated, and everybody's going to have their opinion on who killed WCW, but I think everybody had a hand in the demise of that promotion, even though a lot of us here on this show, Baron, J-Bone, Max, myself included, have had speculations on who killed WCW. A lot of people would say Russo. A lot of people would say the execs at Turner. I say the execs at Turner, Hogan, Bischoff, Russo. All of those guys were the demise of WCW because the Turner guys were not wrestling fans. Ted Turner was, yeah, but it doesn't matter because Ted Turner, after the merger with Time Warner and Turner, Time Warner was like, you know what? We need to get rid of wrestling. We don't need this. And we'll just sell to Vince McMahon because he's the juggernaut. He's the Disney of this industry.
Yeah, but at that point, it was basically dead anyway. I mean, they killed their ratings. And listen, you can sit here and talk about who's to blame, but when it comes down to it and boils down at the end of the day, you're right. Everybody has a hand in the blame, but you're forgetting the rest of the roster. All right, here's the thing. Eric Bischoff becomes in charge of WCW. We bring in the NWO. Then everybody becomes NWO. Then the NWO splits up, and you have two different NWO factions. Yeah. The problem is they let everybody have a say in creative. Everybody on the roster got to go to the office and say, this is what we're going to do this week. You put all those egos, and yeah, I love Nash, I love Hall, but they were egos, okay? Every single one of them. You let them have creative control, and they're going to bring it down. And that's what happened is they killed it. Now, I have a question about Russo. Is his drug use recent, or has this been going on for years? Because saying that he's more talented than 80% of the WCW roster, I mean, that's
what kind of crack? That's worse than Tony Khan.
Right?
That's way worse.
I mean, yeah, he falls under the ego category, always has. But to say he's better than 80%, those drugs must be good.
I typically am the Russo supporter of anywhere I go. It's just because TNI was actually part of Russo's podcast family for a cup of coffee. When I say a cup of coffee, I mean a cup of coffee. So look, I'm not going to agree with everything he says, but I did see that headline and I was like, damn, Russo, come on. You're not helping yourself by saying stuff like that.
No.
Now we could say wrestling wise, absolutely not. That's a given. I think we have to look at the context around it. And I'm guessing what he meant, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe he just means big picture wise. But I think what he meant was writing wise. So that's my guess. I mean, obviously, he's not going to be a athletic like a Sean O'Hare, Mark Jendrick, Rey Mysterio, Psychosis of that time. I mean,
I heard that and I thought that was about as dumb as John Cena not marrying one of the Bella twins. And I was like, what in the hell are you talking about? So, Baron, I know you've had a lot of thoughts about Vince Russo in the past. What have you watched the show? Have you I
haven't watched any of it. I mean, I feel like I have watched and read YouTube, it doesn't matter what it is. The who killed who at WCW, I feel like for the last 20 years of my life. So I feel like I have a good grasp on who really killed it. And I mean, like, it was obviously just like Max said, there's more than one person killed that, but it brings up a decent point just because, you have all these people that shouldn't be booking things. We have a similar product out there that's doing the same exact thing. They did storylines to where there was no ending of the storyline. They just continued on with, what I'm saying? Like the merging, the two NWOs, and you had the Wolfpack, and you had all these other NWO, LWO, all this other stuff. And I feel like, obviously, that's why you have a role of a booker to book these things. And I feel like, obviously, with all the people that had their hands in the pie over there, kind of ruined it,
I also have to say this too. They did have David Arquette on the show, and they talked about his short, very, 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 very brief heavyweight championship run, and how the internet wrestling community absolutely lost their fucking minds when it came to him getting this belt. And the only good thing that I will say for Vince Russo when it comes to that is that when he came back to the WCW, he was looking at guys. He was sick of the Hogan era. He was sick of him having creative control over his own story, and he was so for giving the title to either Jeff Jarrett or Booker T. And Booker T had paid his dues very, very year after year after year. Booker paid his dues, no matter what kind of stupid storyline happened with Booker that involved Booker. Even when he was a solo and broke up the tag team after his brother joined the NWO, Booker paid his dues.
GI Bro.
Yeah, GI Bro. Oh my God, that was terrible. But Booker paid his dues. That was the only thing that I really respected Vince Russo on, was for understanding the importance of the title, understanding whose waist that title needed to be around, and I'm glad it went to Booker finally. Max,
I want to defend the booking of David Arquette as champion for just a moment. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was pretty stupid. You bring this celebrity in and you just put your belt on him. But it did do something positive for the business. It drew eyes to WCW. People were like, what kind of company put a belt on the guy that used to be married to Courtney Cox? And and as Eric Bischoff has famously said, controversy creates cash. And putting that belt on Arquette created a shit ton of controversy. Pardon my language. I mean, that's exactly what it did. It did what it needed to, and it brought attention.
I get it.
I mean, do you guys remember why they put the belt on him and what it just not from attention? So you remember the movie Ready to Rumble?
Yeah,
so,
that was a big part of it.
Yeah, that was like one of the big promotionals they were doing during that time, which I fucking love that movie, and I need to find it.
The movie.
Yeah,
I have it.
They did a lot of taping, I think, with WCW production.
It's in this box right here behind me.
VHS?
No, DVD.
Oh, okay. I wonder if it's on an app or something.
I understand the importance of cross promotion. I totally understand that. Don't think that I don't, because we here at the podcast at Ramblers Unleashed, we're all about cross promotion. That's why we teamed up with, TNI and any other podcast that wants to team up with us. You're more than welcome to come over here.
Let's not forget about STP.
STP, absolutely. Thank you, Max. How could I forget? And I understand the cross promotion aspect of that, but what I don't understand is, why would you give the belt to a Hollywood guy? Why wouldn't you have at least David Arquette come in, do a run in, and then promote his little movie and then leave, and not give him the damn belt? Why did David Arquette, out of every person who paid their freaking dues at that company, because that's what the belt's all about, man. The belt is supposed to be about the guy who's paid his dues in this industry over everybody else, and the guy that they can push to carry the company on his shoulders. Why the fuck did that have to be David Arquette? Just to promote a movie? Come on, dude. That's not because
it didn't draw the same amount of eyes. Like I said, they pulled a ton of eyes. And you know what? Here's another thing. Here's another thing.
I understand.
We are still talking about this 28 years later.
No, I know, and that's I totally
How long was
understand
his title reign?
why they did it. It was like a week. His title reign was like a week. He was even in backstage and he's like, I don't deserve this. He went out to the ring and said, I don't deserve this. Give this to Booker T. Give this to Jeff Jarrett. Give this to Diamond Dallas Page. Anybody but me. I feel guilty. He said, I feel guilty for having this belt. And I understand. I totally get why they did the cross promotion to promote the movie and all that. But I don't understand why so 12 days over a week, but I don't understand why they had to. I know. Look, I'm fired up about this, and I hear somebody's freaking car alarm going off in my microphone, and it's throwing me off.
Oh, good. My new song is released in your area.
Say what?
I said, oh, good. My new song is released in your area.
I think if your new song was released in this area, people would leave this area just to get away from it, bud.
I mean, to be fair, though, like there's been so many other terrible fucking champions. Like,
yes,
I get the point, and like at the end of the day, it's a business. You're gonna do whatever you got to do to make money. But also, when he won that title, this company was already done for. Like it was in the year 2000. There was not much left of the company. It was only one solid year of WCW. WCW did nothing. Like it was a terrible product outside that 1 year when the WWE guys switched over to WCW. And it wasn't because they were big stars. It was because they were big WWF guys. And they went over there, took over for, I don't even know if it was a full year. I really don't. But I think they've had a lot of, like the finger poke of death. Like, like there was a lot of fucked up decisions. And, I get it, promoting that B-rated movie, Ready to Rumble, probably very important for him.
Yeah.
I do need to watch it, though, because I remember I used to love it as a kid.
There were tons of cameos in it.
Yeah.
Think about it. What other wrestling stories do we talk about 20 years later? Katie Vick. Yeah, that's up there. We've talked about that a few times. What else? I mean, it's David Arquette or Katie Vick, basically.
I'll take David Arquette.
Yeah, I think I'll take David Arquette too, honestly. J-Bone, you have a side note?
I got a side note. If you guys haven't seen the documentary that came out a few years ago on David Arquette, I believe it's called something to the effect of David Arquette Will Not Die. He did kind of a comeback tour a few years ago and wrestled in a bunch of indies and actually got himself in shape, and kind of this whole thing with him in WCW and his reputation and the controversy really ate him up over the years. And he tried to go back out there and kind of redeem himself and be like, hey, if people are going to talk about me, I'm going to go out there and I'm actually going to do some real wrestling. So he did. And if you guys haven't seen it, please go see it. It's a lot of fun. There's also another fun fact. When he was doing this tour, TNI's very own Alicia, our own Lady Satan Knockout, she was present when David Arquette won the championship. And then she also got to see him at some indie for an appearance and talk to him and be like, hey, I was in the audience. I was there when you became champ. And they had a nice little chat about it and stuff. And yeah, I thought that was awesome. It's like, I give that guy a lot of credit. I mean, you could blame him and stuff. It's like, hey, you got to blame the people around him that actually put him in that position. It's like David's just an actor, and he's just trying to do what he's doing. But I give David a lot of credit for going back out there and trying to save face and just do something positive,
Yeah, and I mean, I give him credit too that he realized that I don't deserve this title, and later he went on to have a decent career, and I wouldn't even call it a good career, but he had something to do with professional wrestling. which is really, really cool for him. But if you guys have not seen the documentary Who Killed WCW, I encourage you go to Vice anywhere that you can and just watch it. It is so well done. It's produced by The Rock, and The Rock is in it because he was part of that. Not in WCW, but he was part of the WWF, who had, they were competing. That was one of their major competitors, and WCW was kicking ass of the WWF.
Wasn't he in the main event the night of the Finger Poke of Doom? That Bischoff spoiled, and everybody went and watched that and shifted the ratings.
He was. Yep. Absolutely. Yep,
that was where it all started moving.
Yep. So definitely go back and watch Who Killed WCW. And there's already 3 episodes. The new episode premieres on Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, I believe, or 9 o'clock Central on Vice TV. If you get the channel, watch it. Huh?
How many parts are there supposed to be? Because I thought it was just going to be 2, and I noticed there was a part 3. I got them all on my DVR. I'm waiting to. It's 4 parts. Okay.
There's going to be 4 episodes. This episode coming up, I believe, is the last episode of the series. Which,
okay,
kudos to Vice, man. Before we move on, man, kudos to Vice, for doing this for and
The Rock.
And The Rock for putting some light on professional wrestling, man. This is really, really cool in the backstory and all that. Thank you to our new subscriber, by the way, Melody. She subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much. Tell your friends about us and hit that little bell icon too. Every time and share. And when you hit the bell icon, that will tell you whenever we go live. So thank you so much, Melody, for subscribing to the channel. We certainly are glad that you're here and hope you're enjoying the show. Let's move on to some more current topics. Let's talk about Drew McIntyre and CM Punk on SmackDown. When we last saw Drew McIntyre on Monday Night Raw, he quit. He quit the company, and we didn't know if it was for real. We didn't know if it was kayfabe. We didn't understand what was going on, even though we kind of had an inkling. I definitely know Max, because Max knows all. Knew, but I was really shocked when Drew McIntyre showed up at SmackDown and showed his hate towards CM Punk. Oof. And it was really cool. Of course, CM Punk kicked off SmackDown in Chicago by addressing the fallout of Clash at the Castle. He spoke about the disappointment of losing a crucial world title opportunity in Drew McIntyre's native Scotland, and highlighted his collaboration with Cody Rhodes in thwarting potential attacks from the Bloodline. Later in the evening, a backstage segment featuring DIY and Grayson Waller. Go ahead.
Hang on. Before we skip ahead to the attack, we have to address what conversation happened between Paul Heyman and CM Punk. CM Punk.
Have you had an edible today?
No, I swear to God, I did.
That's the problem. Pop one of them damn things, man.
So tell us about the conversation between Paul Heyman and CM Pink Floyd, please.
Pink. Wish you were here. Number one, the fact that
you're comfortably numb.
I wish. No, the fact that Paul Heyman interrupted CM Punk that turned a lot of heads. Like, whoa, why is he out here? I hope this is cool. And I jokingly said this in the our own private conversation on Facebook Messenger. The Emmy once again this week goes to Paul Heyman. Golf clap. Him going out there sweating, looking like he's sick. Paul Heyman looks like he's about to shit his pants, have a stroke, puke, all in the same conversation. Like he looks like legit disturbed by all this. It's beautiful. I mean, he's great, for God's sakes. I don't know if they added makeup or what. I hope it's makeup, and I hope he's not like that, malnourished or whatever.
Right.
But he's like, for the love of God, please get the hell out of here. And then there was a part 2 to that we have to address. And it's a tit for tat. It's like, you do me a favor, and then or I'm doing a favor for you by warning you, and you do a favor for me. CM Punk, as the bloodline comes out, says, "What's that favor?" He comes up to him and he's like, "Take me with you." And it's just like, oh my God. It was like the most dramatic moment on the whole freaking show, besides Jacob Fatu showing up. It's like, he's like, "Please take me with you, because I can't handle this stress anymore. These guys are freaking killing me." He's saying all this and just his expression. And
Paul
then,
is
okay, now skip ahead to the door opening backstage, which you were talking about, and that just how they presented that. Go ahead, Ben.
I will say this: Paul Heyman has always been the best person to tell a story when it comes to telling stories. I absolutely love that about Paul.
And he doesn't even have to open his mouth to do it.
Exactly. He can tell a story with his freaking eyes, with his actions, his body language. He knows how to tell a story without even having to put a microphone to his mouth.
I am good at telling the story, and I'm not nearly on that level.
Yeah, I know. So let's talk about what happened backstage. Later in the evening, a backstage segment featuring DIY and Grayson Waller was abruptly interrupted by a startling noise. The garage door swung open to reveal CM Punk, visibly battered and lying on the ground. Drew McIntyre, who put Punk on his shoulders, carried him backstage, took him out to the entrance, threw him off of his shoulders, got down on his knees. I saw this at the bar, by the way. Got down on his knees, did the whole swirling on the ground, and looked back at Punk, and got up. And the SmackDown GM came out, pushed Drew. Drew pushed him back. And then that's when EMTs and referees started to come out to see about Punk and see if he was okay. And then that was so good, and it was really fitting that they did it in Chicago, because it puts heat on Drew as a perfect heel, turns Punk into a babyface, and we're definitely going to see a match between these two.
Well, the beauty of the entire segment was that I don't think we've talked about it, but I don't think any of you guys have seen House of Dragon, read the books or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But there was House of Dragon season 1, there was a clip where he went into the caves to kill, the bad guy. And we're talking like a 5 to 7 minute, clip. And while he was killing him, he didn't say a single word, and the cinematography was just like perfect. And I'm pretty positive Drew McIntyre didn't say a goddamn word the entire time, beating the shit out of him and carrying CM Punk all the way out to the, to the front while he was bleeding the entire time. And it's like, goddamn.
One camera shot. That one camera shot. It took him all the way from the back.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. No,
that production is killer.
Yeah. No, they changed that production crazy.
Yeah, that scene that you're talking about is absolutely fantastic from House of the Dragons. I'm a huge fan, and it did remind me of that when Drew was carrying Punk on his shoulders, and just one camera shot.
Yeah,
it really did, and it was beautiful cinematography. It was beautiful storytelling, and I absolutely applaud the WWE and Triple H for doing that, for telling us that story, because that felt real. Yeah. It felt real. It felt You felt the tension between the two. And that is one of the things that has been missing from professional wrestling for so long. Because if you think back to the Attitude Era, you think back to that, there was so much legitimate heat that wrestlers had with one another, and they would go out and they would do these promos, and they would put in their own disdain for the person. You saw it in WCW, you saw it in WWF, you're continuing to see it in AEW, you're continuing to see it now in the WWE, but it's still part of the story. You know, they're not swaying away from here and there, and they're staying, on center. They're staying on point with the story, and I applaud that. I applaud the WWE. I really do. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was just really, really awesome to see that.
It's just the only time, like, obviously it was great, and now it's just like, okay, CM Punk hasn't had a match, and I couldn't tell you how long. Drew's got to. He's got to beat the fuck out of him, right? Isn't that the goal here?
Yeah.
He already did that, obviously on SmackDown, but I'm thinking of the match, because Drew is like fucking huge, man. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But love the storytelling, and he did take CM Pink's bracelet from him at the end there too. They had AJ Lee and Larry. I want to say his dog. Yeah, bracelet.
Is that what that was? I was going to ask you. Thank you for bringing that up. I noticed that was the one thing he took from Jesus Christ, that he took from him when he was laying there. And I was like, okay, it's some kind of friendship bracelet or something. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
So then now it's personal.
Very personal, and that's good. And old CM Punk would not. This type of shit would not happen.
Yeah.
He would not allow this to happen, because CM Punk was always CM Punk when back in the day, and he was, the main character per se. So it's cool to also see him, totally change from what he was 10 plus years ago or whatever. Helping out other talent along the lines, which I love to see, because it doesn't have to be all about CM Punk. And I love it even more that it doesn't have to have a title. Like, this feud doesn't have to have a belt whatsoever. This is outshining some of the title belts, So I'm looking forward to it. It's one of the best stories in wrestling right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It could have had a title, but Drew didn't walk away.
No.
He taunted CM Punk at WrestleMania, and now he's not the champion. That's on you, Drew, not on Punk.
Yeah. Let's talk about this other event that happened that was huge for SmackDown. They had a big show too, man. After months of speculation, Jacob Fatu made his debut last night on SmackDown as the next member of the Bloodline. The former MLW heavyweight champion has signed with the WWE earlier this year, but it took him until SmackDown this week to debut, and now the reason for his delayed debut has been revealed. He made a dramatic debut where he wreaked havoc on Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. Now, despite Rhodes' attempt to fight back, he was swiftly overwhelmed by Fatu, and he concluded tonight, Jacob did, by slamming Rhodes onto the announcer's desk and aligning him with Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline, marking a shocking end to the show where they were all in the middle of the ring, and you see it on our display photo, the cover photo of this video. But what took so long for Jacob Fatu to come to SmackDown? Well, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, he reported that sources from MLW had previously indicated that Fatu had not wrestled outside of the U.S. due to his past issues with his criminal record when he was younger. However, this didn't prevent him from securing dates within the U.S. The impact of his history with on his WWE booking remains uncertain, particularly with the increasing on its international events, but especially in the spring and summer. But I don't know what the whole story was for his criminal record, if you will. I don't know what that entails. I don't know how that even mattered because he was busy with the MLW. So what does that even, why does that even matter?
No, well, the first things first is that Sean guy's full of probably shit. I've read so many stories from him that are so fucking out of context.
Right.
And I've read so many stories about this guy just being a complete piece of shit. So he could be right though. I don't know, but I mean, this guy is pretty fucking crazy, Jacob Fatu. So it wouldn't surprise me any, at all. But goddamn, hell yeah, that was a great debut. I don't care if he was supposed to be here 6 months ago. Here now, it made perfect sense to be here on Friday night. It made sense. It looked good, and the only problem that's going to come from this is he's about to be the number one guy in Bloodline. There is no fucking way that after what he did on Friday night, anybody else could be the tribal chief other than him. Obviously, Roman, but I mean, he outshines every single one of those guys currently in the Bloodline 2.0. By a long shot.
Yeah. I've been a fan of his for quite a few years. In fact, I met Jacob Fatu in MLW right after his debut in Chicago, and then he came to Milwaukee, by way of Waukesha. If you know, you know. It was at the time it was like 10 minutes from where I was living, so there was no way I was going to miss that. Great guy, and if you look for how his physique has evolved over the last handful of years, my God, he is in amazing shape for his debut. I was expecting like a more. I'm not going to say fat, but he's a big guy. He's a big Samoan guy. But man, did he slim down? And he was just moving 100 miles an hour. In a matter of just a couple minutes, he took out Randy Orton. He took out Kevin Owens. Absolutely destroyed the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. If you go back and look at that footage after he took out KO and then ran 100 miles an hour around the ring and put Randy through the wall.
Yeah.
So he was just gone like lightning. It was like, whoa, what's he doing now? 2 seconds later, boom, Randy down. It's like, what?
You know what? I tell you this, his time at the Performance Center was very, very well used. I mean, he might have been rough. He really might have been rough around the edges, but after his time in the Performance Center, I think people around him who surrounded him said, okay, we need to polish you up and shine it up real nice.
Goddamn, boy.
So that you can go to SmackDown and make a name for yourself.
Wow.
Good drop there, Dizzy.
Good
but
drop.
The same with Jacob too, though. Like, I mean, like we've all seen his matches. This motherfucker can wrestle, whether he is in phenomenal shape or he's just a little tad bit huskier. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude is doing flips off the top rope. Like, he's so far ahead of these guys that are in the bloodline right now, and it's like, what the hell?
Well, and that's the thing is, and I heard that on another show last night. I believe it was Denise Salcedo's show. She did a post show after SmackDown, and she did a little comparison quickly, talking about how each guy is different, and to say, yeah, you can say Jacob Fatu is the best, but they all bring something different. If you look at the former God, Tama and Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, they're like henchmen. They're also very talented. They've been wrestling for a long time. I think they might be the biggest mystery of this whole group. And Solo Sikoa is, I feel he's going to be a good leader. I feel like he currently is a good leader. He's doing good promos, and he's doing those. I'm going to throw a comparison out there, and you can agree to disagree with me if you want. That's fine. You're wrong, but that's fine. Yeah.
You're fucking wrong.
You're just wrong, dude.
You're just wrong. If you look at how he was talking to Paul Heyman, he gets in real close, and he doesn't raise his voice. But at the same time, you're fucking scared shitless about what he's about to tell you.
Right.
It's Jake the Snake Roberts psychology, and I love it.
Yeah, it is. I
love it.
Together, that's beautiful.
You gotta lean in. It's like, wait, what's he saying?
Yeah. Solo's. I won't knock him, man. Like, he's definitely progressed. Like, once Roman left, he stepped up. He really has. I don't think you guys. I mean, like, Jacob Fatu on the mic is that's a different breed. You don't need Paul Heyman at that point in juncture because this guy can spit on the mic.
You really don't.
But no, Solo. I won't say anything negative about any of them. But I think they're doing great. They're holding it down for when Roman or The Rock come back. But that's good shit happening right now. Good shit.
Yeah.
Max, I know you're. Go ahead, J-Bone.
I'll say one last thing. WWE this week absolutely put it into next gear between Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. There's just a big drive feel between all the different shows. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah,
all right.
Max. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts.
First off, I've been scouring Google to find out more about this criminal record. So far, what I've come across is that he may have been arrested at 18 for armed robbery. Now, if that's the case, armed robbery is a felony.
Hold on. 2018 or at age 18?
At age 18.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Let me confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, at 18 years of age.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that that's for sure what it is, because all I'm mostly finding is the wrestling reporters reporting this. I tried Googling his real name, which surprisingly is Jacob Samuel Fatu. And it was wrestling reporter stuff that came up. But apparently at age 18, he got arrested for armed robbery. Now, that carries a felony stipulation on it. So the problem with that is he can't travel to Canada. Canada does not allow felons in. And there are other countries that he's going to be restricted from because of his felon status. So that may be what played into the decision to hold off his debut, because they knew they were going to France and Scotland and multiple other places over the last few months. So let's wait until we got a nice, long, healthy run in the U.S.
There you go.
Number two, we need to talk about what was said to Paul Heyman right before the main event.
Yes.
Paul Heyman says to Solo that he stepped outside of the bounds, that when Roman left, he left instructions that CM Punk was off limits. Nobody touches CM Punk, and that he wanted Cody kept in check and ready for Roman return. And Solo leans way in, just like we were just discussing, and he says, Roman's not coming back. Now, I don't know if there's any truth to that or if this is just shock value for Paul, but the look on Paul's face said that it hit exactly where it was supposed to. And that's great.
Emmy.
Now, the other thing we have to discuss, listen, over these last few weeks, I have seen how brutal Tama Tonga is. Tonga Loa is brutal out there, but Tama's the one you got to be afraid of. And last night, when Jacob made his debut and they're all in the ring together, Tama and Tonga were both stepping forward, and you should have seen the nervous look on their faces as they looked at Jacob Fatu. Now, as big of a beast as Tama Tonga has come across these last several weeks, when he looks nervous looking at somebody, you need to be worried.
You know, I'm glad that you said that they said Roman is not coming back, because that sets it up, man. That sets up Roman's bloodline versus Solo Sikoa's bloodline versus, Roman's right-hand man in Roman's bloodline. This just sets it up, and it sets it up beautifully, because Roman is coming back. I just know that he has to. He has to come back. He's going to let this. I mean, we're going to let this run. We're going to let Solo do his thing with his version of the bloodline. But this sets up beautifully for Roman to come back and say, you think this is your bloodline? I'm the one who started this bloodline. I'm the one who got us here. You know, if it wasn't for our forefathers who got us here, for them, I wouldn't be here, and in turn, you wouldn't be here. So it's going to make a baby face Roman. It's going to
he's going to be baby face like a motherfucker.
Oh, like a mother. And it's going to be so I predict we're going to see Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa in some way, shape, or form WrestleMania.
Well, yeah. No, I totally see it. I think the big picture that's going to happen through all of this is, I mean, like, I think obviously Roman's coming back as the ultimate babyface, but I don't think you're going to see that happening anytime soon. I think it's going to be The Rock coming back prior to the Roman Reigns taking over as a bloodline, and that's going to lead into the Roman versus The Rock. I think that's the ultimate goal. Roman versus Rock at Mania. I think they basically said that's happening.
How would they?
Rock stays still, and Roman's the savior of the babyface coming back. And it doesn't really have to happen to where the Rock comes back first, but it that's going to be the ultimate end goal here with this bloodline story is Rock versus Roman. Or what else are we doing here?
Does Rock stay with the new bloodline, or does Rock do his own thing, but not with the old bloodline? Because the Booker in my brain just kicked into high gear, because you've got the Gorillas of Destiny, you've got Solo Sikoa, and now you've got Jacob Fatu. That's 4. Okay. For War Games, how many do you typically have per team?
5, man.
It's at least 4 or 5.
5. Yeah, 5.
So if Rock comes back and he joins the new bloodline, Roman comes back. He's like, what are you guys doing? So now you have Roman. We don't know where Jimmy stands following WrestleMania because we haven't seen Jimmy since WrestleMania. So maybe Jimmy comes back to back Roman. And because of the fact that Roman is now fighting against the monster he created, maybe Jay joins them. And we've already seen that Randy and KO are fighting against the new bloodline, the monster that was created. So now you have 5. You've got a 5-on-5 built up already. And you don't even have to debut Hikuleo or Zilla. And I hear Zilla's not ready anyway. But apparently, I've heard what Hikuleo's WWE name is going to be, so I want to point something out real fast. So you have Tama Tonga, then you'll have Tala Tonga, which is Hikuleo, and then you have Tonga Loa. Slight height difference there.
Right.
Wait, Hikuleo's they're changing his name to
Tala Tonga. So he's the Tala Tonga, then you got Tama Tonga, and then you got Tonga Loa.
Is that like a legit trademark they did?
Disney finally saw that. My understanding is that is what his name is going to be. That's all I know right now.
That's not a Max joke.
No, the Max joke was pointing out that you got Tala and Tonga Loa. So he's the Tala
I caught it right away. I was like, okay, this fucking guy.
I was a little disappointed because Dizzy's looking down as I'm doing it. But yeah, that's the name I'm understanding he's coming in as when he does debut.
Courtney brought a good point up, and I have seen, I've seen quite a few posts about this with Jacob Fatu. Might be changing his name to Caesar Sikoa. I can't imagine after they've already kind of like debuted him as Jacob that they would change it, right? I think that, but they've done it before. I mean, it's totally could happen. I just feel like he made too much of an impact as Jacob to change that fucking name already.
I agree. I think if anything, they could bring it into the storyline as, your great grandfather was named Caesar Sikoa, and now you will be known as Caesar Sikoa or whatever. I don't know, but I like the name Jacob Fatu. I don't know why they have to change it. I don't see that, but
it could be somebody else they might be, signing or is going to debut that they change their name to or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but I have seen that quite a few times.
Yeah. We really need to keep an eye on this whole bloodline evolution, this new bloodline evolution. Let's move on to the final story that I have, and it's been kind of blowing up about this. Shane McMahon, following his absence from WrestleMania 39, Shane McMahon, he's relatively had a low profile. However, rumors have started to circulate that he may consider returning to professional wrestling, and it won't be with the WWE. Apparently, he's allegedly reached out to some talent over at AEW about a potential move to the company. Shane's future in wrestling remains uncertain, but Jim Ross recently addressed the idea of Shane joining AEW. Ross said he didn't rule out of that happening, as he stated it might be crazy enough to work. Shane, he said on this, depending on how it was positioned and how it was introduced, he said Shane called me the other day, and he was called 2 or 3 times, which I really appreciate. Ross said he's always been sensitive in that respect. He said that's only a question that Shane could answer. Shane and Tony Khan being together, how would that work creatively? He said, heck, who knows? Might be great, but in any event, that all depends on Shane and what he wants to do. Conrad Thompson also revealed on a podcast that he received a text from a friend claiming that Shane McMahon has reached out to AEW talents about potentially joining the promotion, which leads us to Baron's 999 segment. Now,
999.
Baron, and we got to make like some sort of audio thing.
Yeah, give me some audio. You know, I'm old. The voice is not what it used to be. Smoke a lot of greenery and other things. No,
we don't have you going 999 as of right now.
I know for fuck sure you have it from the old.
I have to go find it, but the best
I think you did make one.
The best thing that we can do to polish this and make it all nice is. Here we go. 999 moment on Shane McMahon possibly joining AEW.
So, okay, here's my thing. I don't even want to say anything about this issue. I dropped in the private chat a video. If somebody could throw it on there for, I don't know if you can or not. Maybe might get in trouble, might get flagged. I don't know. But WrestleMania 39. That's the last memory of Shane McMahon we have. And I think that should be the final memory we have of Shane McMahon. I think him going to AEW is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. There is no fucking way that man is ever stepping foot in AEW soil, especially to tie this back into what we should be talking about. With a viewership of 500,000 people, could Shane McMahon help the ratings? I don't think so. I don't think he's got that kind of pull like people think he does.
Would it be like a Mercedes Moné coming to?
Yeah, I mean, it would
the company.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. They have internally way too many problems. They hurt their fan base so much, and I don't care what anybody says. The minute they played that tape of CM Punk on air live, I don't think you quite understand how many people said fuck that shit because they're CM Punk enthusiasts.
But let's put it into perspective. Let's put this into perspective, and we're gonna go back to WCW for just a second, because this is when that buyout with Vince and the WCW was going on. Vince and Shane were currently in a storyline where it was father against son. Shane showed up on Raw in Florida for the last, he showed up on Nitro for the last Nitro saying that he's bought the company, but then Vince said that he bought it and then Shane proved him wrong. So could it be something similar to that? Because that was huge. That was massive back in the day.
So what are we saying? Shane's going to go and buy the company? Maybe it's something like an angle like that?
Maybe. I mean, that could possibly...
I could see that happening, but it's also happened before, and I don't think the booking and the productivity over in AEW is gonna result in anything like that happening. I think right now in McMahon, and then it's, you know, with everything that's happening, if you have the last name McMahon, you kind of want to stay out of the wrestling business. And I don't even think you're really welcome in wrestling.
What about Stephanie?
Well, now she's never been on. I mean, she was at the Hall of Fame, which is a very close quarter type of thing. They did show her there, but she's also got a different, like, Triple H is running the company at this point.
But she introduced, she welcomed everybody to WrestleMania.
No, that's right. I kind of forgot about that. But I mean, also it's Stephanie McMahon compared to Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon does not have an impact in wrestling whatsoever.
Well, Shane McMahon does too have an impact in wrestling. Absolutely. He had how many matches? Over Stephanie? They all have. It's equal. It's equal. Shane McMahon has an impact in professional wrestling. If you remember anything back in the storylines of WWF with the corporation and all that, and especially his matches with, didn't he have a match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania? Didn't he have a match with didn't he have a match with Brock Lesnar? Didn't he have all these matches? You can go back and look.
If you want to call it a match, we could definitely call it a match. When it comes to him going to AEW, it just doesn't make any sense. But I mean, wrestling, I guess, doesn't truly have to make any sense whatsoever. But it's just, just no. That's a hard pass, man. I wouldn't tune in AEW to see that.
I don't know. I would, just to see what happens, just to see the fallout of everything.
It also will be, I mean, like, it will probably help them out a little bit. Here's the thing. We're going back to the same problem we've been talking about with AEW since we started coming back. They haven't created any fucking stars. There's nothing star related to push the longevity of AEW. If Shane McMahon coming back, it might help out the ratings here and there, but it's not progressing anybody in that company, and that's the problem we're having with AEW. They haven't built any massive stars other than MJF.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fallen kind of like flat a little bit, in my personal opinion. But you got to build some stars, man, or you're not going to have a company in 5 to 10 years. This is how wrestling works. If you don't have stars, there's no point of watching.
I think that they're trying to ride the coattails of MJF. I think they're trying to ride the coattails of both MJF. They're trying to ride the coattails of Swerve Strickland, as far as being major players in the AEW world, in the world of AEW. I think that's what they're trying to do, and to bring somebody like Shane McMahon, because Shane does have, I mean, he'll definitely be recognized. There's no doubt about it. Mercedes Moné was recognized even without people knowing her as Sasha Banks. They looked at her face and said, "Oh my God, that's Sasha Banks." And now she's going by Mercedes Moné. So I would be interested in to see how this would impact AEW. Is it similar to what they did in WCW with all these, big names and returns and all that? And how would this drive ratings? What they're trying to do now is they're trying to make the people at Warner Brothers Discovery not drop their programming off of TBS and TNT. They're desperately trying to save whatever they can to keep themselves on TV. And they need to do something. They can't continue to ride the coattails of whatever they're doing. They can't continue to do whatever they're doing, because obviously it's not working. We've heard numerous story after story after story that Tony Khan has all of these former pro wrestling knowledgeable former wrestlers on his creative staff that are just sitting at the wayside because Tony Khan wants to do what Tony Khan wants to do, and now he's involved the elite with them calling the shots in AEW. Do you think that with the elite now in power at AEW, do you think that it would make sense if Shane Shane McMahon came and backed up the AEW roster and said, "This is not how you run a company, Elite. This is how you run a company, and I'm going to show you."
Oh,
Do you think that would be a good storyline?
it's tough.
No.
It's really tough because AEW does have a similar audience to WWE. It's a little more tribal, obviously. They'd have to be very careful how they book the Shane McMahon, walk in or surprise or whatever. I thought for a second, I thought you were going to say that Shane McMahon should join the Elite and be the man behind, Okada.
That's another one.
The Young Bucks as a voice, and then just let them run roughshod as they have been. I don't know. There's a lot of different things you could do with them, but do I think it's actually going to happen? No. It would turn some heads. It might draw some more views. All in all, big picture wise, if Shane walks into AEW, it'd be the biggest FU to his father that we have ever seen.
Yeah, and I especially, yeah, it just, I don't know, it wouldn't feel right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would feel like cringy in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it would feel dirty, but it also would feel like, what the fuck am I watching? What is he? Shane McMahon, don't get me wrong, I loved watching his shit back in the day. I'm not gonna diss Shane, but where does he fit in? I just don't see it. And I think this is another story that got blown out of massive proportion by a regular AEW fan that had to comment on something. And then the comment was brought up to Jim Ross on a podcast. And then all these other names have tied in. I don't even think there's even a % of truth to this happening. But
Conrad.
Hey, it'd be
Conrad.
Who the fuck is Conrad? Who the hell is Conrad? I have no idea.
Conrad runs the JR podcast among
He runs
others.
a lot of different podcasts.
Okay.
He runs JR's, he runs Eric's, he runs Jeff Jarrett's podcast. He's been featured on Dark Side of the Ring, on the unseen footage of Dark Side of the Ring. So I mean, he's known.
Now, the biggest thing that I could see happening, I mean, it's always been a possibility, is Vinnie Mac and Shane O'Mac buying AEW and saying "fuck you" to WWE. I mean, I think that would be the wildest fucking story of wrestling. But will that happen? Highly
That would be the new WWF versus WCW. That would be a new Monday Night War. That would be a new wrestling war, unlike we've ever seen before. And
he don't think because all the people he fired from WWE is now in AEW. So the wrestlers he didn't like, I don't know how it would work out, but that would be interesting. I'd be into that.
I would think if this is all true, I think that Shane, if he does come to AEW's doorstep and wants to do some sort of storyline, I think it should be he comes in as a babyface, and he comes in and he sides with AEW. But then again, there could be a shift. There could be he comes in and he sides with the Elite and becomes the biggest heel in the history of that company. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. We're definitely going to keep an eye on this and see what happens. But I'm kind of intrigued now that if Shane is really showing some interest in the company, could that help the product? Could it hurt the product? I don't know how they could even hurt it any more than it already is. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see and let things ride out, and we'll definitely keep an eye on it. But that is the show for this week. Very good show, by the way. Very good show, guys. Very good show. So, okay. That is going to wrap it up for us this week. Please, again, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon.
Hit the bell.
And yeah, if you hit the bell and you subscribe and you make that face, that's just something new, man. All right. As far as our social medias go, Baron, how can they follow you, sir?
On the Twitter, find me at Scumbag Jordan with 3. That's right, 3 N's.
Not 1, not 2, but 3.
3.
Scumbag Jordan with 3 N's. Max Mages.
All right. I'm going to give my social, but first I'm going to give my opinion on the Shane thing.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah.
The problem with Shane going to work there would be that he knows more about booking and successfully telling stories in the ring than TK does. Even if it's not by much, he does know more, and TK is not going to listen to him no matter what. And even if you put him with the right group under TK's booking, I think it's a bad idea. That's just my opinion. As far as my socials go, you can find me at Max Mages, or you can find my other podcast, The Nerd Stuff, over at Our Shots Podcast. And we do have a new episode going live this weekend.
Awesome. Make sure you subscribe to that. Jebone, how can they follow you, sir?
You can follow me over on the Twitter box at JBone5150. That's JAYBONE 5150. You can also find me over on TNI, Total Nonstop Impact, on Thursdays, doing a live reaction and then a review following with the rest of the crew. Lots of good stuff happening over there. And occasionally you can find me over on Smash This Podcast.
Yeah. Max, I want to point out the elephant in the room. Is that a Slammy or is that an Oscar?
Technically, this is the Oscar, the guy from the top of the Oscar reward. A friend of mine gave me this a few years back for being the most amazing man in the world.
Aww.
Oh, look
and
at
now
that.
we barely talk, so I guess I'm not that amazing.
Speaking of the Slammies, make sure you follow our Facebook page. We posted a video up there of the Slammies from 1997.
Wow.
And a face that you might recognize, you might not recognize, as one of the backstage commentators, and he used to work in radio. Make sure you head over to our Facebook page, Ramblers Unleashed, and check that out. It is a throwback because he does a song, and he's incorporating everybody who was in the company at that time, including Psycho Sid, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Owen Hart, Bret Hart, Gold Dust. It is all there for you. Go to our Facebook page and check that out at Ramblers Unleashed. You can follow us on X at The Ramblers Pod. And, of course, back here on YouTube, you can please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to know when we go live. And the next show we'll do will be on Saturday at some point, hopefully back to the same normal Rambler time, same normal Rambler channel. But in the meantime, that's the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for spending part of your Saturday with us. And whatever you do, please enjoy professional wrestling. Go watch all the promotions. Don't just stick to one. Explore this wonderful world of professional wrestling. And until next Saturday, we'll see you mañana later. Mañana is tomorrow, but later.
Thanks for tuning in to Ramblers Unleashed. Follow the show on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click the bell icon for notifications of upcoming episodes.